Hi Tim.
Hi Joel.
So we are doing cutting room floor, right?
Yes.
So what is cutting room floor?
So cutting room floor, I guess, is a chance for us to, as a preacher,
Yeah.
one of the most frustrating things is you study, you prepare, you look at these Bible passages and you have so much, and so much gets cut out.
Yeah. And you want to come into land.
Yeah,
but you just can't. You can't get there on time.
I'm known for circling around the airport a few times. I think I might have run out of fuel a couple of times as well. So
I guess we thought, how can we create a little bit of a space that's not too long or too much, that we can explore perhaps some of the content that you weren't able to share, that you felt was really valuable, but also reflect on what you did share and perhaps any further kind of insights.
Yeah, and also to hear from you as well, to reflect a little bit. I think we're testing it out because obviously the next few weeks we're talking about vision stuff as well. So it's kind of got that added benefit of you get to flesh out a little bit of stuff,
which is exciting. It's a very exciting season to be in.
It is.
I'm excited
for sure.
for it.
I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks and seeing what God's going to stir up in us. Yeah.
So yesterday was obviously the beginning of that.
Yes.
And we were looking at kind of rebuilding from the rubble, rebuilding from the ground up. You looked at a little bit of Elim's history. Yeah. Particularly, I guess, your journey in and through that.
Yeah. I realised that one of my main roles, I guess, as the sort of senior minister in the church is I'm here to tell the story of what God's done in the life of the church. And there's a whole load of reasons why I haven't really shared the story very much.
Okay.
And I realised that actually there'll be people who are part of this church who really haven't really got a clue of where we came from, what God's done, how He's shown Himself to be faithful, all these sorts of things that, we need to hear it, we need to have our faith built up and stuff like that. So,
and I'm guessing it can sometimes feel, particularly because you are the senior minister, but you were the main minister in the church for so long, kind of key role of rebuilding it. Yeah. I don't want to talk much about its past because it just feels like it's hey, look at what I've done kind of show.
For sure, like there's definitely that side of it where it's very rare that I'll tell a story in a sermon that will like paint me in an impressive light. And I think part of that is to do with I don't trust my own ego enough to tell those stories. But like I think I'm learning that I need to be able to tell not just the detrimental stuff, but also tell some of the good stories that God's done where maybe I have been faithful and trusted Him. And like that's as much a part of my story as my faults and failures and things like that. So,
but I mean, the good thing about yesterday is that you shared kind of where the church has got to, some of its past, but you highlighted a lot of how, I mean, God was like front and center in all of it, like especially around the finance, were you sharing about that you came, there isn't enough, and then all of a sudden God's just providing. And I love that as a life lesson, as a theme. I've seen it in my own life. Both me and Sarah have just this sense of in fact, one of the verses that we're holding on to this year is that He is before all things, and in Him all things hold together. And that's just like meant so much to us because we've seen so many times where we've been thinking about how's this gonna work, but God, we do trust you, and then He either brings the right people around, or it's the finances, or whatever it is. And I think it's not only in those personal situations, but it's exciting for us as a church because there's stuff that we're stepping into that we're like, we don't know how it's gonna happen. Bigger than us.
Don't have the resources for it. And I love that verse that you guys are kind of taking, because I think often when we're anxious about stuff, worried about stuff, we try to be before all things and hold all things together. So actually it's just a good, like, it right sizes us. Says actually this whole thing is not dependent on me. There's someone greater than I am that holds it together. I would say like that's definitely part of my journey, even with sickness last year. I would never have said before then that I thought the church was dependent on me, but I probably acted like it was, and I think the last year or so has just helped me to learn that God is before all things, and in him all things hold together, and it's his church,
Yeah.
his bride, and as much as I love her and committed to her, he's so much more so.
Yeah.
And I can trust him with the things that matter most. That's one of my go-to phrases.
Yeah.
You know, I trust
Yeah.
him with the things that matter most.
I think, and oftentimes it can be easier to say that, right, than to live it out.
Yeah.
And I remember you sharing the story yesterday of how you were doing your like office, in fact this space.
Yeah.
You were working on it, and then the ceiling falls through.
Yeah.
And you said, I looked at the rubble, and there wasn't part of me going, "Oh, I'm not going to be here." But there was an excitement and like a, I guess, a grit and determination.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm going to stick this through.
Yeah.
Has there been any point on the journey where you've actually gone, this is too tough, or you've not perhaps felt that I'm definitely in the right place no matter what happens I'm going through? Has there been any points where you perhaps felt this is just too much, and what has helped you through that, especially when we're talking about rebuilding ruins and stuff that's hard to...
I would say I had a lot of energy.
Okay, cool.
A lot of passion, a lot of hope, a lot of faith. So I would say for the first few years, I was good.
That's awesome.
You know, there were probably the thing that I found hardest to trust God with was finance.
Oh, okay.
So I think those early days, there would be days I'd wake up and God's got it, I trust him. And then days I'd wake up and I was like, Sarah, how can we cut a little bit more out of our, expenses? So I'd say that's probably the area where I wobbled the most, and it's probably because it was an area that I hadn't had to trust God in that way before. So it's like you're exercising a new muscle, kind of thing. So, and there were moments I think where I grew weary of. It was probably towards the second year of being here where it was almost every month. It'd get to a point in the month where we were like, okay, we now don't have the money again.
Yeah.
And we're now having to trust you, God. Because Sarah couldn't work either because we had young kids and all this sort of stuff. So it was literally, my salary was it for us.
Yeah.
And it just didn't quite, go across the line. And there would definitely be moments where, after going through it a few times, it kind of just grew weary of being in the same place.
Yeah.
And it just felt like this
wears you
relentless,
down.
God, I've got to come again and trust you again for this. And he provided in amazing ways. So, I look back now and, I don't think I've shared this publicly from the front yet, but one of the things that he did was there was an anonymous group within the church who gave us enough money for a deposit on a home.
Wow.
And that's off the back of 2-3 years of the struggle.
Yeah.
And trusting God. And we ended up in a far better position than if we ever had been on a full salary and, had all that stuff. So there's ways in which God's provided, and it's a gift. And to this day, I still don't know who gave that money, whatever. So definitely been moments where I grew weary. I'd say the hardest time was when I started to fall ill, but I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
So I would say probably about 1.5 years ago. It was probably just after you arrived, right?
Yeah.
And I was starting to say I was struggling a little, and I think I was waking up most days with not enough energy to get through the day, and there was countless times where I'd sit on the bed trying to get up and just say to Sarah, I don't know if I've got it in me today.
Yeah.
And that was like a regular thing.
Yeah.
But I think actually even experiencing that weakness, limitation, fragility and stuff, God's shown me how much I can depend and rely on him.
Yeah.
So I'm not the leader I was 6 years ago when I arrived. I feel like God has matured me, shaped me, revealed a lot of stuff that was maybe unhealthy in me that I didn't even know. I'm sure there's still more to come out, but that's been the journey for me really.
Yeah.
So.
That's really cool. I think it's interesting because it goes to show just how important vision is. Because I know that when you first got here, the vision was about restoration.
Yeah.
And it was restoring the ruins, rebuilding something, and then probably as I got here, maybe just afterwards, I remember talking to you about it, but you'd felt like, I feel like we've restored something, and we were having conversations. I was we're in such a great place, we're moving forwards, but you were not like unpassionate about the church at all, but perhaps a little bit like, I don't know what's next.
Right.
And in that wandering place, I was like, I don't know where to be, alongside being unwell. And it's a really difficult place to be in when you perhaps don't have the clarity of vision and like moving forwards. And I think it speaks to what you said around Jesus and having like, he had his imagination. Yeah. He was in the chaos, in the ruin, but it never took away his imagination.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably word it better because you did yesterday, but something along those lines.
No, I think you said that beautifully, right? Absolutely.
But when you're in it, your imagination can get like quenched.
Yeah.
And actually, there was perhaps a level at which your imagination was quenched somewhat.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're in a very exciting time right now, and the imagination isn't quenched in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. We're really excited about what's coming up. But I think it just goes to show how important it is to have that kind of forward-facing perspective, and not getting too caught up in the just like I'm just kind of stagnant or stationary.
Well, I think it was an interesting season prior to me being sick, bringing you in, because I think we'd known quite rapid growth for about 3 years or so, 4 years, and realised that we didn't have the kind of infrastructure in the church to sustain it. Yeah. So, simple things like life groups. Yeah. Just having things that people could experience growth, community. So I remember having conversations with people who'd been part of the church for a year or two, and because there were so many new people, they still all felt really new. Yeah. So no one was feeling like, I feel rooted, connected, planted. It's all like, I'm still getting to know people. I still feel like I'm new to this church family. And so we did need to bed down. And it was frustrating for me because I think I am more of a kind of big picture, I want to see things moving forward sort of person. So it was a frustrating space to be in of like, so you were looking at stuff and going, it's great. What's going on? It's so good.
I was all positive. Like, this is great.
It's just all wired. Oh, I'm feeling this pent up thing of like, come on, there's more for us. But just going back to the Jesus imagination, I'm absolutely blown away by that. Like, to be so, and it's not just that he wasn't defined by it, like he was so in tune with it. Right. So to have the capacity to see the brokenness and to grieve wholeheartedly in it. Yeah. And then not be so consumed by it that you can't see beyond it. Yeah. Like, that is a level of being present with people, being present in pain, and yet having like this redemptive imagination for more. That honestly,
it's crazy.
He must have been God.
It must have been.
He's just got this incredible redemptive imagination, and to this day, his heart still beats for it. And
a deep love. Like, even in, he's able to grieve. I mean, you mentioned it yesterday, but grieve the things that you see in the body, the bride. Yeah. Deeply grieve that, and that hurts. And there's people who, even yesterday and in our church, and I've gone through it myself, just like deep church hurt. Yeah. And yet the love that he has for his bride, and and not just I'm going to put up with you. It's like a deep love of saying like, I'll give everything for you, and he did. Yeah. But wants to see it thrive and flourish and has grace and patience, and I'm like, I want that. Like, I want that for his church.
I think it's so easy to get jaded. Yeah. So easy to lose our passion. Yeah. Like, I think this part of this for me, like why this was so important to even begin here, is that for a lot of people, you begin with like vision for the church, and they're like, why should I care? Right. And they've not yet got to a point where they have that love for Jesus' bride. And I think, you spend time in church, it's easy to get disillusioned. It's easy to see imperfection. It's easy to experience real hurt, real wounding. Yeah. Like, I'm looking at my family and seeing like the pain that church has caused. And it's not just that church has caused pain, there's been incredible gifts. Right. You know, so it's not one of... I just talked about how
Yeah,
the church...
it's a total mix of both, isn't
right.
it?
So on the one hand, I've got this church family who've cared for me and my family in amazing ways. So much so, we've got a home because people I don't even know who they are have like blessed us. And that's been a place of security for us. But then on the flip side, I can look back, I can see what's maybe going on in the life of my parents, grandparents. I see the cost and the pain that's come down through the generations, and think, it's not always been a blessing. It's not always been a good thing. And it's easy when that happens for the wounds to get deep, because I think church hurt is different to like work hurt. Because you don't open up your soul to a workplace in the same way. I mean, you might do. Most people. There's a level in which their identity, their faith, the deepest loves and desires of their lives aren't wrapped up in their work.
And sometimes we don't have perhaps like the perfect ideal of what the workplace should look like, but we often come in with the perfect ideal of what the church should look like, and so it should be the place where there's just grace and patience and mercy and kindness, because we're all here following Jesus,
and justice and holiness, and
all of that. And then when we don't see that, it really feels like a big slap in the face, because you're like, well, that's exactly what I expected to find. And it's a hard tension to live in. It's the brokenness of the church, but it's also the potential of what it could be. And
I think part of the problem is like church leaders, particularly like when you're thinking big bold vision, don't often acknowledge like the brokenness of the bride. So I think of like Bill Hybels. He used to have that phrase like, the church is the hope of the world. And the guy who said that is now a guy who's caused all kinds of pain and brokenness. Like, it's come from the same mouth. And I think, it's so easy for us to become jaded, disillusioned. But I mean, you said you experienced it and stuff. So like, what has that experience been like for you? How have you found your way maybe out of that place? Or
I think for me, like I experienced church hurt again because I felt like it's that whole thing of, I feel like this is what it could be, and I was living in I wasn't living in what it could be, I was living in what it is. And I think the nature of that was brokenness, and there's people who aren't like me, who have different preferences and different views, and it's kind of navigating that with them. And so it very much was hope deferred makes the heart sick. I had a lot of hopes for what it could be, and it just felt like they were getting dashed time and time again. And so you kind of either go, well, do I just give up all hope and just accept, well, this is what it is, and it doesn't look much better than the world, so why bother? Or do you look at it and go, well, if Jesus died for the bride, there must be something in this that is worth giving my sort of life for, and serving and seeing thrive. And I've had the beauty and privilege of seeing that in many different kind of spaces. And I think part of the healing process for me, I dealt with a lot of the church hurt over time, but I think part of it was actually coming back into a setting here, similar model, similar style of church, but in a culture that allowed me the space to just feel it and step into it without a judgment. And it just felt like a healing space for me to work through. And I say at the same time, I was intentional about working through it. I didn't just expect, I'm sure it'll be fine. I was like, no, there is some stuff in me that I want to work through here and process. And let's be real, it's never fun. Anyone who's processing church hurt, often you don't want to, because you don't want to go back to the place. You basically don't want to feel how you felt when you were in it. And so to protect yourself, well, I'll ignore it then, and then I don't have to feel that way again. But it's actually sometimes embracing that to deal with it and process it, that out of the brokenness, out of the hurt, can come life and goodness and healing and wholeness. And I think that's what I found for myself. And
I think that's where you want to get to, is to have an imagination that's for restoration again. So it's not that so healing doesn't look like, okay, I can now ignore the brokenness.
Right.
It's like I can now imagine a future and work towards a future where the church is more whole and more holy.
Yeah. And accept that it is broken.
Yeah.
So accept that I'm going to face brokenness rather than like fight for an ideal that perhaps isn't necessarily realistic because we work with people who are broken. Wouldn't church be a great place if there were no people?
Yeah. It's really funny because on the idealism, I'm a highly idealistic person.
Right.
So my challenge is always taking the high ideal and then working out what does that look like in reality in a broken world. And I often struggle with that. But it's interesting because like the church passages that inspire me the most, Acts 2, Acts 4, where it's like the church is this community, they meet daily, they break bread together, they're devoted to the scriptures, they're in awe of God, there's this generosity, sacrificial living, and it just stirs.
I want that. Right.
Luke deliberately writes that as an idealistic passage because you get to Acts 5 and it's a hot mess. And it's not that it suddenly became that. It's that there always were broken people. And I think what Luke's doing is he's writing in a prophetic way to stir up our imagination for what could be. So every time you read that, there should be a sense in which, the church can be so much more than what I know it to be. Right, which is
because otherwise you've got nothing to move towards.
Right.
If you've got no ideal, you've got no hope, no expectation of what the church could be, you're just going to go, well, this is what it is, and it will always be this. But hope gives you an excitement of like, we're hopeful about the future of this church because we've been talking about the vision, we've been talking about where it's going to go, and there's a deep excitement. We're not there yet, but we want to get there, and we believe that through faith and prayer and serving like one another, we can get there, and that's really exciting. But it's also we're not going, we'll get there and it'll be really easy. There's going to be some like difficult things. There's going to be some brokenness. There's going to be navigating some of that.
And there'll always be a journey. It's not that we'll ever, this side of eternity, we will always be heading towards fullness, never quite there. And like, it's funny because you read that passage and you think, man, I want to be a church that's full of sacrificial generosity. So if I'm reading that and I'm stirred towards sacrificial generosity, great. Let that stir up your imagination. Go and embody that in your life. Or I'm hearing about all these miracles that the apostles were involved with, and you see the Spirit moving. Man, I'm hungry for that.
Right.
Let that stir your imagination. Or I've seen the devotion to one another and to the scriptures and to prayer, and I feel hungry for that. Great. That's the whole point.
And then it's managing that, isn't it? Because it's going, I feel stirred. Something in me is like leaping with joy. I want to do that. I'm going to go and live like that. And then sometimes what can happen is you feel like, great, let's do it, everybody. And other people aren't quite there yet. And so you're like, it's like, oh, really? Like, this is really hard. And you either go, I'm expecting you to be like I am, and they might not be there. Or you kind of go, oh, well, you're not there, and you're not there. It's like, oh, well, I give up there. I'm not going to get there.
Which is, again, shaped by the ruins,
and it's hard to carry that. It's really hard
to stay connected and imagine something more, and I think that's honestly one of the most beautiful things about Jesus' life. Like he could go into the most broken place, be deeply connected, and yet still imagine a future beyond the brokenness of those around him. And I think for any follower of Jesus, like if you're in your workplace, if you're in your family life, relationships, friendships, whatever. I mean, I can remember a time where I've shared before about my older brother, and there was like fractures in our family and stuff. And I can remember a time where I was in a car with my parents, and I said to them, I cannot imagine how my relationship with my brother will ever be better. Now he's my kid's favourite uncle. Like, God can redeem and he can restore, and sometimes it's really hard for us to see it. But I remember talking to Kev last week, and Kevin was saying one of the prayers he's praying at the moment is, God, let me hate what you hate and love what you love. I love that prayer. I think there's incredible beauty in that. And I think when it comes to the church, Lord, let me hate what you hate and love what you love. And
hold that
hold that tension.
Intention and imbalance.
So I think if we can carry with us the reality that the church isn't perfect, and yet also recognise that God has a vision for the church that is glorious and beautiful and good,
that He's graced us to be a part of.
Right, and there's a mission for us. I think we use a lot of family language around here, and often what happens is in churches that use the language of family, they lose sight of the mission. And we need both. We need to be a family on mission, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the costs of that over the coming weeks. But no, I'm excited. I believe God's written an amazing chapter in the life of the church over the last 6 years. I believe He's written amazing chapters even before then, but I believe there's some amazing chapters still to come. And I'm really excited to see what does this next chapter look like when we get to 150 years.
Yes.
Only 7 years to go until we're 150 years old. Where will we be? What will God have done? And I'm excited to see where that goes, really. So
awesome.
Yeah, happy days.
Yeah, good. Well,
good chat.
That's been cutting room floor.
Come on.
Yeah, more to come.
Excellent. Happy days.